Do you really believe fame in Hollywood is all about wealth, power, and endless glory? That's the illusion, but it's far from the truth. Behind the flashing cameras and standing ovations lies a darker reality few ever talk about. Away from the spotlight, some stars have faced harassment on set, been threatened with losing everything if they didn't comply, or pushed into situations no one should ever endure, just to survive in the industry. Those flawless smiles on the red carpet don't tell the whole story. Behind closed doors, there are tears, fear, and moments of silence that never make headlines. Late nights in lonely hotel rooms, shaking hands in makeup trailers, and battles fought far from the public eye. This is the untold story of 15 talented, beautiful black actresses who paid a painful price for their passion and dedication to their craft. What you're about to hear may change the way you see it all, because it forces one haunting question: is Hollywood truly a dream factory, or just a perfectly crafted illusion hiding a nightmare? Tikaina Arnold. A radiant smile on screen, while behind the camera, she was fighting a battle no one could see. You know her from hit sitcoms like Martin and Everybody Hates Chris, a bold, magnetic presence with impeccable comedic timing and undeniable charm. She lit up every scene she touched. But what audiences saw was only a fraction of her truth. Behind Pamela James' sharp wit and confident grin was a woman navigating a toxic environment where her voice was often silenced, and the truth felt too dangerous to tell. Back in 1992, when Martin exploded into a cultural phenomenon, Tikaina was stepping into what should have been a defining moment of her career. But success didn't come with the respect she deserved. From the very beginning, something felt off. A male figure connected to the production began making subtle, demeaning remarks about her body, disguised as jokes. Comments about her being sexy, but needing to slim down. At first, she brushed it off. But it didn't stop there. The messages started coming. What began as seemingly harmless invitations to talk about work over dinner quickly turned into late-night texts with a much different tone. And when Tikaina didn't respond, everything around her changed. Suddenly, she was being overlooked in meetings, handed erratic shooting schedules, and, without explanation, her scenes began disappearing from episodes. People noticed, but no one said a word. The man behind it wasn't some outsider. He was part of the system, someone with influence, someone protected. And then it escalated. Behind the scenes, he became more brazen, standing too close, placing his hand on her shoulder just a little too long, always masking it as accidental. But Tikaina knew better. She felt it. Every time she pulled away, the tension grew heavier. By 1993, it had taken a toll. The unwanted contact, the lingering stares, the whispers backstage. It all began to chip away at her peace. Sleep became a struggle. Nights were filled with anxiety, waking up breathless, heart pounding. And every morning, she had to walk onto set, put on a smile, and make the world laugh, while silently carrying the weight of it all. Still she stayed. Because walking away could mean being labeled difficult, a word that has ended far too many careers, especially for black actresses in Hollywood. She didn't file a lawsuit. She knew how the system worked. In an industry where power often buries truth before it ever sees the light, evidence isn't always enough, and voices like hers were too often ignored. So she chose a different path. She spoke out. In interviews. In conversations with younger actresses. She turned her pain into purpose, guiding, warning, and uplifting others like a protective big sister who had seen it all. And when she later returned to television in Everybody Hates Chris, she didn't just bring laughter. She brought strength. The strength of a woman who endured a silent storm and refused to let it define her. Tikaina Arnold isn't just a talented actress. She's proof that resilience can shine even in the darkest places, and that true power lies in standing tall, even when no one else dares to stand with you. Lupita Nyong'o, the quiet strength behind a global star. Long before the spotlight crowned her an icon in 12 Years a Slave and Black Panther, Lupita Nyong'o was fighting battles no one could see. Her rise to fame looks like a dream from the outside, but behind it lies a story of fear, resilience, and unbreakable courage. As a young student at the Yale School of Drama, Lupita carried nothing but passion and hope for Hollywood. She believed in the magic of storytelling, never imagining how quickly that dream could turn dark. In 2010, she crossed paths with Harvey Weinstein, a name that, at the time, held the power to make or break careers. What should have been an opportunity became the beginning of a nightmare. During an early meeting at his Connecticut home, Weinstein crossed a line that should never be crossed. He pressured her into deeply uncomfortable situations, disguising control as opportunity. Lupita felt trapped, torn between protecting herself and protecting her future. Fear silenced her, and like many young actors, she endured what no one should ever have to. But the encounters didn't stop there. Months later, in a New York hotel, the pattern continued: manipulation, pressure, and an attempt to strip away her control. This time, something shifted. Through the fear, Lupita found a spark of defiance. She walked away. She chose herself. Still, escaping the moment didn't erase the damage. The emotional scars lingered, affecting her trust, her confidence, even her ability to feel safe in the very industry she loved. Yet somehow, she kept going. She rose. She shined. She won an Academy Award. She became a global symbol of talent, grace, and representation. But her greatest act of bravery didn't happen on screen. When the #MeToo movement began to shake Hollywood, Lupita chose to speak. She risked everything: her reputation, her career, her peace, to tell the truth. Her voice became part of a chorus that could no longer be ignored. And that courage helped bring justice, contributing to the downfall and conviction of one of Hollywood's most powerful predators. Lupita Nyong'o didn't just survive, she changed the story. She stands today not only as an award-winning actress, but as a symbol of strength for women everywhere. Her journey reminds us that true power isn't just in fame, it's in finding your voice when the world expects your silence. Halle Berry, The Scenes No One Ever Saw, and The Price of Staying Silent. She made history as the first Black woman to win the Academy Award for Best Actress, a symbol of beauty, resilience, and undeniable talent in films like Monsters Ball and Catwoman. But behind the red carpets and flashing cameras was a reality far darker than the world ever imagined. In 1991, Halle walked into a casting room in Los Angeles, hopeful and prepared. Across from her stood a director. Behind her, a closed door. What should have been an opportunity quickly turned into something else entirely. No casting team. No manager. Just a chair, and a request to perform an intimate scene that didn't exist in the script. She hesitated. He stepped closer. A hand rested on her thigh, casual, almost rehearsed, as if nothing was wrong. But in that moment, Halle understood a brutal truth. In Hollywood, not every performance is about acting. Between 1989 and 1992, these moments weren't rare, they were routine. Auditions became traps. Meetings turned into silent tests of how much she was willing to tolerate. Executives judged her not just on talent, but on the shade of her skin, telling her she was too dark to sell. And still, she endured. Not because she was weak, but because she knew the cost of speaking up could be everything. Her career, her future, her voice. So she stayed silent. No accusations. No lawsuits. Just quiet survival. She kept working, navigating a world filled with unwanted eyes and unspoken threats. Even after landing a major role in Boomerang, she was told she wasn't marketable enough for a leading romantic image. She responded the only way she could at the time, with a smile. The kind of smile that hides wounds no one else can see. Then came Monsters Ball, the role that changed everything. It brought her an Oscar, but it also brought questions. And with those questions, the silence she carried for years began to break. Halle Berry finally spoke. About the pressure, the exploitation, the lines she was pushed across just to survive. And in doing so, she reclaimed something far greater than any award. For truth. Because in the end, her greatest victory wasn't the gold statue in her hands. It was the courage to reveal the pain she once had to bury. A reminder that behind Hollywood's brightest lights, there are stories still waiting to be told, and voices that refuse to stay quiet forever. Tina Turner, the Queen of Rock, lived a life that looked like pure fire on stage, but felt like endless darkness behind the curtain. She was more than a superstar. She was a force of nature. From the explosive anthem What's Love Got to Do With It to her unforgettable presence in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, Tina defined power, passion, and resilience for an entire generation. But while the world saw a legend rising, Tina was quietly breaking. In 1962, she married Ike Turner, and what seemed like a partnership quickly became a prison. This wasn't love. It was control. It was fear. It was survival. Behind the flashing lights and roaring crowds was a life suffocated by violence. Ike didn't just dominate her career, he controlled her every move, every word, every breath. And when anger took over, it didn't take much. A bad mood, a drink too many, or no reason at all, and he became someone unrecognizable. The abuse was relentless, brutal, inescapable. Everyday objects turned into weapons. Her body carried the evidence, bruises, cuts, pain she was forced to hide. Still, she was pushed onto the stage, expected to perform like nothing had happened. Smile, sing, shine, no matter the cost. But the deepest wounds weren't the ones you could see. Piece by piece, her spirit was torn down. She was humiliated, isolated, stripped of her identity until she felt like nothing more than a shadow of herself. This wasn't a marriage, it was captivity. And yet, she endured. Until one night in 1976, after 16 years of living in hell, Tina made a choice that would change everything. With just 36 cents in her pocket, she ran. No plan, no safety net, just courage and the desperate need to live. She walked away from everything. Fame, money, security, all of it. Because freedom was worth more. But escaping didn't erase the damage. The trauma followed her. Sleepless nights, flashbacks, scars that no one could see, but that never truly faded. Even as she rebuilt her life and rose again, stronger, louder, unstoppable, those shadows remained. Her solo success wasn't just a comeback. It was a declaration, a refusal to be broken, a message to the world that she survived what was meant to destroy her. And yet, behind that legendary voice, was a heart that had been shattered more times than anyone could imagine. Tina Turner didn't just sing about strength. She lived it. Angela Bassett. Nearly 3 decades of being pushed down, overlooked, and forced into silence just to survive. A true force of Hollywood, Angela Bassett isn't just an icon, she's royalty without a crown. From her electrifying portrayal of Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do With It? To the regal strength of Queen Ramonda in Black Panther, she has come to embody power, intelligence, and unshakable dignity. But behind the standing ovations and golden accolades lies a story far more painful than most will ever hear. When Angela stepped into Hollywood in the early 1980s, she carried more than ambition, she carried fire. But it didn't take long to realize that this industry wasn't just about talent. It was a battlefield, especially for a Black woman who refused to shrink herself. From the very beginning, she wasn't judged by the depth of her performance, but by how well she fit a narrow, uncomfortable mold. It was never, how good is she? It was, is she appealing enough? Then came 1993, the role that would change everything. Playing Tina Turner should have been her breakthrough into untouchable stardom. Instead, it became one of the most emotionally taxing experiences of her career. Behind the scenes, whispers turned into criticism. She was called too strong, too rigid, not soft enough. Some didn't hold back at all, telling her outright that she needed to be sexier. Not better, not deeper, just sexier. And it didn't stop there. Male colleagues would belittle her in front of entire crews, questioning her femininity, labeling her as intimidating as if strength were a flaw. In meetings, she was pressured to alter not just her performance, but her appearance, pushed toward more revealing, more provocative choices that had nothing to do with the character. And if she resisted, the threat was always there. You can be replaced. This wasn't a phase. It wasn't a single project. This was years, decades, of quiet endurance. Every audition, every set, every photo shoot carried the same tension. At any moment, it could shift from professional to deeply uncomfortable. She was scrutinized, objectified, and at times, even physically disrespected, all under the watch of an industry that chose silence. But Angela Bassett never broke. Because for her, walking away wasn't just personal, it meant leaving a void no one else might get the chance to fill. So she stood her ground. She endured, yes, but she never surrendered. She refused to reshape herself to fit someone else's expectations. She refused to become a background figure in her own story. And in the end, she didn't just survive Hollywood, she rose above it. In later interviews, Angela spoke carefully about her experiences. No names, no lawsuits, just truth, measured but powerful. And in that restraint was something even louder than accusation. A quiet exposure of an industry that had long thrived in the shadows. Angela Bassett didn't just make it through a toxic era. She became living proof that strength, authenticity, and self-respect can outlast even the darkest systems. Mary J. Blige, from a broken studio dream to the Oscar stage. An R&B legend, a force behind Mudbound and Respect. Mary isn't just one of the most influential black female artists of all time, she redefined a sound. With a voice that bleeds truth and a style no one could imitate, she gave the world hip-hop soul. But behind the fame, the lights, and the accolades, was a story she once buried in silence. In 1989, Mary was just a young girl from Yonkers. No fame, no connections, just a voice too real to ignore. That voice caught the attention of Uptown Records and landed her a deal that felt like destiny. She thought she was stepping into a dream. She wasn't. What followed was nearly 3 years of quiet torment. From the very beginning, something felt wrong. A powerful figure in the studio, shielded by influence and silence, began pulling her into situations she couldn't escape. He didn't just shape her music, he tried to control her. Subtle touches. Calculated words. Closed-door meetings no one questioned. Each moment chipped away at her dignity. He told her she should feel lucky. That this was the price of being chosen. And when fear wasn't enough, he used power, threatening her contract, her future, her voice. Then came 1991. As What's the 411 was nearing completion, everything reached a breaking point. The question wasn't spoken outright. It didn't have to be. Do you want this album to come out? In that moment, Mary understood. The cost of success wasn't talent. It was herself. After that, something inside her shattered. To the world, she was rising, a bold new voice, raw and unforgettable. But behind the scenes, Mary was unraveling. Alcohol, depression, emotional numbness, pain that lingered for years. No one saw it. No one was allowed to. Silence was enforced. The truth was locked away. So she did the only thing she could. She sang. And in songs like My Life, Not Gone Cry, and No More Drama, the truth slipped through the cracks. The pain. The survival. The fight to breathe again. She didn't take her story to court. She took it to the stage. She turned her wounds into music the world could feel, even if they didn't fully understand it. And when Mary J. Blige finally stood on the Oscar stage, it wasn't just a career milestone. It was a statement. Because while some may try to take a woman's voice, her power, even her past, they can never destroy her soul. Taraji P. Henson. Behind the spotlight, silent battles Hollywood hoped she'd never speak of. From Empire to Hidden Figures, Taraji P. Henson built a legacy on raw talent and relentless grit. But long before the fame, she was fighting battles no one could see. In 1998, she had nothing but ambition, grinding through unpaid auditions and late-night script readings under flickering lights. Then came the moment that changed everything. During an audition tied to Baby Boy, a director asked, "Are you ready to do whatever it takes?" At first, it sounded professional, but his stare said otherwise. By 2001, the lines blurred even more. Private messages, subtle pressure, veiled threats. When Taraji refused, she was labeled difficult. Roles shifted. Doors quietly closed. And when boundaries were crossed, it became clear. In Hollywood, talent alone wasn't always enough. The pattern continued through hustle and flow, unwanted touches, manipulative praise, and punishment for saying no. One refusal cost her a scene. Another cost her opportunity. Meanwhile, less experienced co-stars were rewarded simply for being marketable. Still, she endured. Then came Empire, her breakthrough, her crown. To the world, it looked like victory. But behind that success was a price few could understand. As Taraji once said, "No one sees what I had to swallow to get here." She didn't stay silent forever. Without naming names, she spoke out, turning her pain into power and her voice into a reminder: no woman in that industry stands alone. Octavia Spencer. Beneath Hollywood's glitter lies a harsher truth. Known for her powerful performances in The Help and Hidden Figures, Octavia Spencer didn't just rise through talent. She endured a silent, brutal side of the industry few ever see. Before the fame, she was labeled just a supporting actress, a black, plus-sized woman rarely given a real shot. Then came a role that could change everything, and a cost she never expected. In 2010, during early meetings in Los Angeles, a powerful producer coldly asked, "Do you think anyone will notice you if you don't lose 15 pounds?" She smiled through it, because in Hollywood, speaking up can mean losing everything. But it didn't stop at words. On set in Jackson, Mississippi, the line was crossed again and again: unwanted touches, whispered suggestions, late-night messages she couldn't ignore. When she refused to play along, her scenes quietly disappeared. Her space was taken. Her voice silenced. And no one said a word. She stayed quiet, not because she was weak, but because she understood the rules. Speak out, and you're labeled difficult and erased. No one was going to believe an unknown black actress over a powerful man. Then, in 2012, she stood on stage, holding an Oscar for The Help. The world saw triumph, applause, glory. But behind that smile was a woman carrying untold pain, haunted by what she endured just to be seen. Aaliyah, an angel caught in R. Kelly's shadow. A gifted singer, style icon, and rising film star, she lit up the world with hits and unforgettable roles in Romeo Must Die and Queen of the Damned. But behind the spotlight was a nightmare she was forced to endure in silence. It started in 1991, when a young Aaliyah met R. Kelly, then a powerful producer. What looked like a dream opportunity became something far darker. In studios, hotel rooms, and private spaces, she was controlled, manipulated, and trapped, still just a child. By 1994, at only 16, she was forced into a secret, illegal marriage built on forged documents, an attempt to hide an even deeper scandal. Isolated and threatened, she was silenced, her future held hostage. The marriage was annulled in 1995, but the damage never left. Aaliyah moved forward, shining brighter than ever, but behind her calm, confident image were wounds she never revealed. In 2001, her life was tragically cut short in a plane crash. Only years later did the truth fully surface, through trials, testimonies, and evidence that exposed a horrifying reality. Aaliyah wasn't just a star. She was a victim whose silence spoke volumes, and whose story helped ignite a reckoning that the world could no longer ignore. Gabrielle Union. A radiant Hollywood smile, hiding quiet scars. From Bring It On to Bad Boys 2, Gabrielle Union rose as a symbol of beauty, strength, and black excellence in an industry built on impossible standards. But behind the spotlight was a story few ever saw. In 2000, fresh off landing Bring It On, her first audition in West Hollywood took a disturbing turn. Her talent overlooked, her body judged. She got the role, but only after being told to show more skin. Then came the messages, starting as flattery, quickly turning into invitations she never asked for. She stayed silent. She had to. By the time she filmed Bad Boys 2, things escalated. Harassment wasn't subtle anymore. It was blatant. She was pushed into wearing a bikini for a scene that didn't require it, and when she resisted, she was labeled difficult. One moment crossed the line completely. A director casually touched her waist, brushing it off like nothing. She froze, knowing one protest could cost her everything. So she endured, until being Mary Jane changed everything. That role gave her a voice, and she used it. During the #MeToo movement, Gabrielle spoke out, not for sympathy, but for truth. In her memoir We're Going to Need More Wine, she revealed the hardest part, pretending not to see, not to hear, not to feel, just to survive. She also opened up about a trauma she carried since 19. a sexual assault that shaped her silence. Because in Hollywood, she learned one brutal truth. Black women aren't allowed to be weak, but being too strong can break you too. Thandie Newton, a rising star, nearly broken by the very industry she dreamed of conquering. Celebrated for her unforgettable roles in Crash and Westworld, Thandie isn't just known for her talent, she's known for her strength. Because behind the success lies a story few coulds. In 1988, she walked into an audition full of hope. Young, ambitious, ready for her moment. But instead of opportunity, she faced something far darker. A powerful director crossed every line, demanding intimate acts on camera without her consent. Fear froze her. She didn't understand what was happening, only that she had no control. It didn't end there. He used the footage to threaten her, silencing her, trapping her. For months, she was pulled deeper into a nightmare she couldn't escape. Audition after audition followed the same pattern, each one leaving deeper scars. Still, she kept going. In 1991, she finally landed a breakthrough role, but the trauma didn't fade. The fear, the memories, the threats, they followed her for years. Every performance became more than acting. It was survival. But Thandie refused to be defined by what happened to her. She found her voice. She spoke out. And in doing so, she turned her pain into power, becoming a symbol of courage for countless others facing the same darkness. Her story isn't just about Hollywood. It's about resilience and the strength to rise when everything tries to break you. Anika Noni rose. Silenced, tested, and pushed to the edge, yet never broken. Known for her unforgettable performances in Dreamgirls and The Princess and the Frog, Anika isn't just a star, she's a force of resilience forged in fire. Behind the glamour and standing ovations, however, lies a story few ever saw. In 2005, as she stepped into Dreamgirls, the role that would introduce her to the world, she was also stepping into a nightmare. A powerful figure behind the scenes began crossing lines that should never be crossed. Inappropriate messages, objectifying comments about her body, pressure to attend meetings that had nothing to do with her craft. Words like, "You need to be sexier," chipped away at her identity, reducing her from a gifted artist to something far less human. But it didn't stop there. Private encounters turned into intimidation. Subtle threats about cutting her role loomed over her head. Racist undertones made it clear, this wasn't just harassment, it was control. Every day became a battle between protecting her career and protecting her dignity. Anika refused to surrender either. The weight of it all took its toll. Anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional scars followed her long after the cameras stopped rolling. Even when she achieved a historic milestone as the voice of Tiana in The Princess and the Frog, those inner wounds didn't simply disappear. The fear of being overlooked, undervalued, and diminished as a black woman lingered in the background of her success. And yet, she kept rising. Anika chose not to let her pain define her, but to transform it into purpose. She became a voice for those who couldn't speak, standing firm against abuse, racism, and injustice in the industry. Though she never publicly named the man who hurt her, her strength spoke louder than any name ever could. Because her story isn't just about what she endured, it's about what she refused to become. Zoe Saldana, a battle fought in silence. Behind the dazzling lights of Hollywood, Zoe Saldana stands as a force, an actress who conquered the global stage with iconic roles in Avatar and Guardians of the Galaxy. To the world, she is power, grace, and success. But beneath that brilliance lies a story few truly understand, a story that could have been buried forever if not for her quiet strength. Back in 2002, when Zoe joined Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, she was young, passionate, and full of hope. She stepped onto that set believing it would be the beginning of something magical. Instead, it became the start of a nightmare she never saw coming. From the very first days, the atmosphere felt wrong. What should have been a dream quickly turned suffocating. Crude remarks from male colleagues cut deeper than they seemed. Comments like, "You're too skinny, but sexy," reduced her to nothing more than an object, stripping away her dignity piece by piece. But the words were only the beginning. There were moments that crossed invisible lines, Unwanted touches, lingering hands, invasions of personal space that left her frozen. She didn't welcome them. She didn't deserve them. But as a newcomer in a ruthless industry, speaking out felt like risking everything she had worked for. Then came the pressure from above. A producer, abusing his power, pushed her further into a corner, demanding private meetings, insisting on appearances she never agreed to. And when she hesitated, the threat was clear: comply or lose it all. In that moment, her career and her self-respect were placed on opposite sides of a cruel ultimatum. As if that wasn't enough, another battle was being fought at the same time, one rooted in prejudice. Zoe was made to feel like she didn't belong. "You're not American enough," they told her, as if her identity, her heritage, made her less worthy. Her Dominican roots became a reason for exclusion in a space she had every right to stand in. The weight of it all, harassment, discrimination, silence, could have broken anyone. And yet, Zoe endured. She carried those scars quietly, refusing to let them define her future. Then came Avatar, the breakthrough that launched her into a new universe of success. The world finally saw her brilliance. But even as her star rose higher than ever, the pain of what she endured never truly disappeared. Because some battles don't leave visible wounds, they live within you. Viola Davis, an undeniable force in films like Fences and The Help, didn't just rise to fame. She fought her way through it. Behind the accolades and standing ovations was a battle most never saw, and few would have the courage to speak about. From the moment she stepped into Hollywood, Viola understood the unspoken rules weren't made for someone like her. A black woman who was powerful, unapologetic, and impossible to ignore. But instead of celebrating that strength, the industry tried to reshape it. "You're too intense," they told her. "Be softer. Be prettier. Be more acceptable." These weren't gentle notes. They were ultimatums, quietly controlling who got seen and who disappeared. The pressure didn't stop at her performances. It reached into her identity. On the set of Fences, she was repeatedly asked to change her hairstyle, told it made her look too sad, too real. She didn't argue. She adjusted. Because in an industry like this, speaking up could cost you everything. Silence became survival. And the cruelty didn't end there. In 2008, a producer dismissed her audition photos, claiming her presence would disturb male audiences. The room stayed silent. So did she. Not because she agreed, but because she had learned the price of pushing back. Then came the moment that said it all. During The Help in 2010, she declined an invitation to a private party, choosing instead to honor a commitment to her students. The response? Who gave you the right to say no? In that question was the truth of it all. An industry that expected obedience, not boundaries. For over a decade, Viola endured it all. The comments. The expectations. The quiet erasure of who she was. She learned to smile through disrespect, to swallow her voice, to harden herself just enough to keep going. But here's what they didn't realize. She wasn't breaking. She was building. And when Viola Davis stepped onto the Oscar stage, it wasn't because Hollywood finally accepted her. It was because she stopped asking for permission. She didn't let the industry define her, she redefined it. Her greatest triumph wasn't just the award. It was standing tall in a system designed to make her small and refusing to ever shrink again. Monique, an Oscar earned in silence. Behind the brilliance of her performances in Precious and Bessie lies a story far heavier than the gold she held in her hands. The world saw the award. What it didn't see was the cost. When Monique stepped onto the set of Precious in 2008, she wasn't just embracing a demanding role, she was stepping into a quiet war. From the very beginning, something felt off. In a character meeting, a producer's eyes lingered too long, his words cutting deeper than they sounded. "You've got a full figure. If you play up that allure, people will notice." The room went silent. Monique smiled, but inside, something broke. And that was only the beginning. As filming continued, the lines blurred. Late-night messages. Private rehearsals. Invitations that didn't feel like invitations at all. She said no, and paid the price. The atmosphere shifted. The jokes became cruder. The touches, unwanted. The respect, gone. Then came the demands, promote the film, unpaid. When she stood her ground, she was labeled difficult, unprofessional. Words often used to silence women who refused to be controlled. In 2009, when Precious premiered at Sundance, Monique made a bold choice. She didn't show up. It was more than absence. It was defiance. But Hollywood doesn't forget defiance. Even after winning the Oscar, the calls slowed, then stopped. Roles vanished. Doors closed. She was branded a problem, while those who mistreated her continued to rise, applauded under bright lights. Still, Monique refused to disappear. She rebuilt. Stand-up comedy, independent films, and eventually, her voice. In raw, honest interviews, she revealed the truth, the pay gaps, the exploitation, the isolation behind the glamour. She didn't just speak for herself, she spoke for every woman who was told to stay quiet. Because in Hollywood, silence can protect your career, but speaking the truth can cost you everything. So how many Black women have carried stories like this, unseen, unheard, just to stand in the spotlight? What do you think about what they've endured? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to hear your perspective. And if you're drawn to the untold, the uncomfortable, and the truth behind the fame, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There are still stories out there, and some of them will leave you speechless.